And Eric Tincher and Laura Leahy and Pam Green, our assistant, are in the room with us. And we have some new equipment in the conference room, so we appreciate your bearing with us as we go. As I mentioned, or Eric mentioned, we do have another webinar scheduled for Thursday at 3 o'clock. We will also send out the link to following that presentation, we'll send out the link to the YouTube channel that we will place this on. So just a little bit of housekeeping. I wanted to also mention on your allocations, I know there's been some questions back and forth, and I welcome you. If you have a question about your allocation, maybe this year versus last year, please don't hesitate to give me a call, because I can give you the breakdown of your FTE that was pulled from our system, and it's based on your FTE who are concentrators in Perkins approved programs and our Pell recipients. And so, like I said, don't hesitate to give me a call. I'm sure happy to work with you on that. The other thing that affected the funding for this year is there's actually more, to the tune of about $30,000 more in the, I'm going to say pot, but in the pot for allocation this year, because we had several institutions return money last year, and then we have the carryover from Allen not participating in FY14. And so that money amounted right to around $30,000, and that goes into the $3.9 million that's allocated across the state based on the calculations from your institutions. So I hope that helps a little bit. I thought if I send them one more email, they're probably all going to jump off a cliff. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to bother you with another email or trying to explain that via email. Does anyone have any questions about that I could answer? Okay. So very quickly, just a little bit of housekeeping. We have updated and made some changes to the application that I think will make it more consolidated, more organized. We have provided some optional templates to use, obviously, for next year, and some better ways to report so that we are fulfilling the recommendations of OCDE. So we did get some feedback about the reporting of equipment and tags and this and that, and a lot of that goes to me reporting it in our CAR report. And as you have maybe heard me say before, we have to upload all the data, and it calculates your core indicators, but the remainder of that is simply narrative writing to the mandatory activities and how we use the money. So that comes directly out of your grants. So they have given us a couple examples. We will have a different document for you to use for the final report that speaks directly to the CAR and your goals. So don't panic. It's just basically putting it into a different format or asking maybe a little bit different information so that we can accurately report to OCDE in the CAR report. What happens if I'm not able to provide enough information, they come back to me, they won't approve it, and they say that this is what we need more information on. Last year, I had to provide more information on special POPs because I didn't provide enough, and typically it's because I don't have enough. So basically, we're trying to find out more about the great things you guys are doing with the funds. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Laura, and she basically, if you can't see the screen, she's going to just be walking through the application document and the templates and the things that were sent out. So if you're in front of the computer, if you go to, and you're not on Skype, if you'll go to kansasregents.org and go to that Perkins page, she's just going to be pulling them up right off the web. So thank you for being on here today, and I'll let Laura take it away.
Mm-hmm. And as Connie was saying, if you're on Skype, you should be able to see my desktop and see us walking through it. But if not, if you're on the phone, Connie sent these out to you guys, but we also have them all posted online so that you can look at them. Because I think we just sent out the application packet, but there's with the appendixes that go with that, but there's also some other packets that we've organized this into. So although it looks different, it's probably only 5% new, and otherwise it's just reorganized to hopefully make it more user friendly, and that's what we're striving for. Plus, give Connie all the information she needs to make the federal government happy.
Yeah.
So, any questions before we start? Okay.
This is Sarah. I'm not able to see your screen. I'm in Skype, but all I can see are the people.
Okay.
I can't see it either.
Okay.
I didn't see you say present. There was a button back there.
Okay. I thought I did, but let me mess with it just a little bit here. Oh, I didn't hit present.
That's what I was wondering.
Okay, now let's.
Okay, now go back.
Now can you see my desktop?
It's loading. Looks good.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
That's what the other thing.
Yeah.
Phew, thank you guys. I forgot to hit the button.
I thought since it was black, it was hit.
Okay. So here now you should be seeing our website. And all of you hopefully are very familiar with this site. We've gotten everything loaded on there, including we have the handbook, which was updated just yesterday and put on there. And then we also, I don't know if many of you use it very often, but it'd be very handy, the Perkins Advisory Committee handbook. And it has also been updated and put out there yesterday, so please look at that. And now we'll scroll down and you'll see the 2016-2017 Perkins Program Improvement Grant. And what we'll do is, I've already opened some of these up so it'll be faster, but you should be able to just download them. They're actual Word documents and Excel documents so that you can use them. So we'll go ahead and open up. How I've organized this is that the application packet is the first thing you start with, and the reason there's some extra appendix is with that is because they're Excel documents and they weren't very usable if I put them into Word. Let's see, so let's open. This is the packet you would start with when you're first looking into putting out your application. And this, we already had this, so what I did is just added to it and actually added the documents into it and added some other instructions and updated instructions. So you'll see the table of contents. Yeah, it's reorganized. And then there's appendix documents. And see, instead of, one thing when I was on your guys' side was wondering, now I got this document, and then I get this document, and I got that document. So we named every piece of the grant, A, B, C, D, all through the alphabet, so that hopefully when you're getting your packet together to send in to us to apply, you can just check it off. Okay, I have A, B, and C, and where's E, and let's get this all together and organized and put together. And it'll also be, I think, better on our end reviewing it, that we can just check it off and see that you have it. So as you can see, these are all organized by alphabet. They have the name of the document and then the page that you find it on. And then, as I mentioned, the Excel sheets are separate, so it just states that it's separate, so you know to look for it elsewhere. And the only one, and you'll look at these and they're the same. The matrix hasn't changed from last year. It's the same. The breakdown of expenses is the same as we updated in September last year, because from the field you all asked for a final column that wasn't a budgeted, it was the final expense at the end of the grant. And so that is still like that. And then Appendix N is new, and we will cover that in a little bit after we walk through this. So the instructions are pretty much the same as what you're used to. It's always good to walk through that and read through that. We won't do that now. But hopefully you'll do that on your own, and then let us know if you have any questions on this. And again, it refers you in the end to the handbook. It has everything. The handbook has all of these appendices in it now, and it's actually the kind of the Bible for the Kansas Perkins grant. You guys are lucky. I looked at some other state ones. Ours is about half the size. So just walk through that, and then hopefully giving you some information to make it easy to apply for the grant, what you need to do, how you can spend the money, strategies, what you could be using the funds for. And then here at the end, it shows the appendices. These are the required documents for your application. So you could, just take this list and check it off as you go so that you know you have everything in your application. And again, when you turn in your application, you don't have to have initially you don't have to have your president's signature. You'll turn it into us. We'll walk through it with you, make sure you've got everything. Then when it's acceptable to us, then you can get your president's signature. That way, if you've had to make changes, you won't have to get your president's signature twice. And I know you probably don't want to have to do that. So this is pretty simple. Appendix A is the cover page. We just didn't have it named before. It's exactly the same. It just has a name now. The contractual provisions is Appendix B. Again, it's the same, but it just has a name so that you can check it off and make sure it's included in the grant. And that so you also know, we've gotten the question sometimes on your progress reports whether or not this needs to be included. This only needs to show up on your application and your final. It doesn't need to show up on your December progress reports. But it isn't just a piece of paper. These need to be filled in, so try not to forget to do that. Appendix C.
Those are required by our legal team. So.
Yeah, they're required by the legal team and I think federally on some of them too, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, and Appendix C, again, please don't forget, C, your name of your institution, authorized administrator. When it's all said and done, we'll need that signed. D is for consortiums only. So I think we only have a couple of consortiums this year. So they're the only ones that have to worry about signing this and turning it in with their application. Appendix E, more legal documentation to make all the lawyers happy. Again, it hasn't changed, but don't forget, see this, it asks for the place of the performance. So put your address in there. Fill this out too, because sometimes that gets skipped. And now this is one that's different. So where you used to have the page that you just listed out your Perkins programs, and you said whether you were at different stages of that, this one has been added to get more information. And what you do is one of these for each of your Perkins programs.
And so this is Connie. I might add a little bit about size, scope, and quality. That is something that is a huge component of the Perkins funding from the federal perspective. And one of the things that we were quizzed on quite a bit were the size of the programs. We could easily answer the quality and how we're making our quality insurance with program reviews and different things like that. But we did have questions about why are you running a program when they look at a list of all our programs across the state? Why are we funding programs that are small, that are in such size? Are they effective? And so, as you know, in some situations we put conditional status on those and fund those, but that was a question that we have to address. So they had recommended using something like this that will ensure that, I guess, from the state perspective and the institutional perspective, to really take a look at the programs that each institution is funding at the local level.
Do you guys have any questions on this, since it is a new part of the grant?
Hi, this is Sheila from Johnson County Community College. When you guys mentioned one per program, so if we have something that is an associate degree and a certificate, or more than one certificate or something, can all of those go on one of these?
Definitely.
Or do you mean every program and every certificate? Because we have like over 60 of, individual programs and certificates that are Perkins eligible.
Oh, Sheila, that's a fantastic question. I'm glad you asked that. Just one per program, just the same way, like when I look at your funded programs, I roll your associates and your certs in 99% of the cases, I roll those together to look at concentrators and that kind of thing. So definitely just one per I think we could probably say one per zip code.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, one per zip code. Okay. And another question: is there anything particular that you guys are looking for in terms of aligns with business and industry? Are there any specifics on here that you're looking for?
Well, and some of these answers are going to be very, like number 7, describe where the program is in the alignment process. It's aligned. I mean, it's going to be very simple to answer that. I think that number 9 is critical, and this all goes back to size, scope, and quality. You know, does your institution, the feds, and also we, because the feds want to see this, we want to see that there's an actual process in place to review programs at the local level. Sometimes that's a 3-year process. You know, everybody does it differently, which is fine. I don't think there's a certain focus of it. With aligns with business and industry, that might be an opportunity to talk about your advisory committee.
Number 6, we talked about industry credential.
Well,
And I think as we move closer to Perkins reauthorization, which is probably going to happen next year, we are going to see a lot more of the requirements of business engagement and partnerships with the secondary, post-secondary, but a huge focus on business engagement from what we see and everything that comes out of DC so far. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something sort of, you know, at least baseline uniform you needed from all of us, and then however we add to it. That's what I just want to make sure.
Not at this point, Sheila, but thank you for asking. I mean, once we see what everybody submits, we may have some best practices to share, just like we're kind of moving into sharing some best practices for reporting. So that's a good question.
Right, yeah. And this is like, just like the Matrix was this year, this is a learning document for all of us. And I think one sample I had seen was even like, was talking about the employment. You know, are there jobs in this program? Are students finding jobs? And
Right.
It's a need with industry, so that's one way you could address it too. So, any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, so the next is Appendix G, and it's the Performance Improvement Plan for Unmet Core Indicators, and I think this one came about a couple years ago, right? So, and what this one is, if you don't meet your core indicator for 15, right?
For FY15.
FY15, and you also don't get up to 90% at the state level, then you have to address this, and we'll let you guys know.
And I will, I just yesterday, they last week, as I mentioned, we received the Department of Labor data. Your core indicators performance is available in kids right now. And so just yesterday I checked and everything is loaded, so you can go out and see your FY15 performance and how you performed on each of your programs. And that just happened yesterday.
So please let us know if you have questions on this as you're working on your application, because that's pretty common for people to have questions. Appendix H, I think, is also from a couple years ago, and so we do have, in the other packet, you'll have the reporting form for that. But everybody's been doing good on getting that one filled out. And then this one, everybody's seen this one before. And so in a little bit, I'll probably be scrolling pretty fast past all of them, because the only change on Appendix I, which is your activity and progress report, is that if you look, you'll have your December 1 report, your March 1 report, and then final outcomes. So we would like for you to write down what outcomes were achieved by you having funding in this activity, or even by putting your own funding in the activity. And that's one thing too. We'd like to see when you are funding it and you have an activity, don't just put 0 up here. Put local funding or where the funding is coming from, so that if Octave was to look at it, I mean, 0 looks a little
Well,
strange.
right. And if you put local funds, that's perfect.
Yes.
As you all know, your institution is required to address all of those goals, as is our state.
Mhm.
And so, even though you didn't spend any Perkins money on it, we want to know, what you're doing, and it's also great to see institutional support of initiatives. A note on the final outcome line there. So in this, where previously we asked you to report more about, all your professional development and the specifics there, we're not asking you to do that in that box anymore. We have provided a different document for you to do that. So the final outcome might be, if you were purchasing 6 welders, welders purchased and put into use. So just what was the final outcome of that activity? And you don't have to go into length about what the student outcomes were and what the students did, as we will ask you to address that in a different area. So just tell us what happened with that particular activity.
Right.
And sometimes the activity gets canceled, which is fine. Money moved to another goal. Whatever that final outcome of that activity was, is what you would put there very briefly.
Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. And right now I'm going to probably make you guys dizzy because I want to go past, because this is your whole document in here. So this is your working document for your application. So we'll go on down to Appendix J. And this is new, and this is just a different way to kind of keep track of equipment. I mean, you already have this going, I'm sure, where you've got your equipment and all of this information about it, but this will help us. And the under 5,000, as you know, you don't need a cable or tag on it, but it does, if it's highly walkable, we do have to prove to the feds if they were to look at, they want documentation that this is being tracked and that you know where it is because you spent federal money on it. So just another way to kind of keep track of the technology and small equipment. And then there's another one for equipment over 5,000. So that's the ones that would require the cable or tag. And it's pretty simple. And then when you look at the final reporting document, there are follow-up pages for both of these for reporting. And this is all of the ones that are in your application packet that are Word document based. So then we'll shut this down in a minute and go to the Excel sheets. Do you have any questions on this so far? Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So on Appendix J, that equipment is from 500 above. So I think I've had a difference of opinion maybe on what's equipment and what's supplies or materials and resources. So are you going to consider things that are under 500 equipment but they don't go on a list?
Yeah, because things under 500 equipment. Yeah, because in your handbook is the definition of equipment, right? And it doesn't necessarily have a monetary value on it. So if you wanted to put that on there, you could. Are you thinking like a small tablet or something?
It could be a variety of things.
Okay. Are you, and right now, I guess electronics are supplies, right?
Right, it's just they are highly walkable, and
Right.
Octave recommends that there's an inventory of those. So there may be some confusion over the equipment having to be tagged or equipment just keeping a list of it. So equipment on this document would not have to be tagged, but there does need to be some type of an inventory with it, and also an idea where the what program that it's in.
Right. Just because it's a small enough purchase that you don't need a cable or tag doesn't mean that Octave doesn't want you tracking it, or Edgar,
Correct. So this says equipment. So now that the computer items are no longer considered equipment, so address that again.
It says, actually, this one says equipment and significant technology items.
Okay.
So that's where that's
If they're
addressed.
if they're under 500, we still have the option to put them on the list.
Yeah, this is just, I mean, yeah, that's optional if it's under 500.
Okay.
But they would still want you tracking it. I mean, you should know where it is. So, okay. Any other questions? All right. We'll exit out of this Word document and then go to our next appendix, which Appendix L is familiar. It's the budget matrix that everybody's been working on this year. And I think it's working pretty well. Does anybody have questions from their usage this year? Or something they want addressed about it? Okay. And M is the same, our beloved budgeted breakdown of expenses. And then as you can tell, we added this actual expense final column because it's no longer budget at that time. You've hopefully spent all of your grant. Okay. And this last one, Appendix N, is new, but I think a lot of you, at least two of our institutions, were using something very similar to this. Actually, we combined what they were turning into us because it's definitely a best practice, and it worked very well, I think. And you can add to it, because I know some of them tracked their funding, like the coordinators track the funding over here on the side for the professional development, and then what you can do is always just hide that document or something if you want to send us a cleaner version of it, but then use it differently as a working document for yourself. But as you can see, for the professional development, we want to know, the people going on the professional development, if they are faculty, we would like to know the SIP code and the program name of the faculty, the professional development activity. Sometimes, as you know, you have to add professional development. Even though we had the pool this year, some people have had to add it. So then one good way to track it is just to put the revision number here. So like in revision number 3, you added some other professional development, you could put that on there. It's easy everybody to just glance on that and know when that was added. And then this part we will need at the end, the brief summary of what was learned and brought back to the students. That way we can really tie it back to how it's benefiting the CTE students. And we know that it won't always be faculty attending. So even if it's a dean or somebody and you can tie it to the SIP code and the program name, we want to make sure it's tied back to the Perkins program that's available, eligible for funding. And then another idea was we just added the on-campus professional development, which is nice to see when you're bringing people in and able to spend Perkins funds on helping with professional development for the entire faculty and everybody there. So that's another option on ways to spend professional development. So we thought that would get that across. But again, these are expandable documents, good for you to use. But in the fiscal year 17 Perkins grant, we will expect to see this. Any questions on this?
You expect to see that at the progress reports and at the end. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, this will be, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Laura, hi, this is Sheila at Johnson County. Just a quick question about travel and professional development. When, like I'm the Perkins coordinator and I've never used Carl Perkins funding to do any travel. We've always funded that out of the institution. What is the view of the Carl Perkins coordinator using travel? If we use travel, should that be included in the administrative cost of the program, or should that come out of travel?
Either one's fine.
Yeah, either one's fine, and you could
Okay.
you wouldn't have a zip code, but you could just make a note on
Put
there.
admin or something
Yeah.
on it.
Yep.
Good question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, very good. Because you could even use admin funds to send, like, your book business office to Brustein or something, right?
Right, but you know that's professional development for grant administrators.
Mhm.
So, or you're sending your business office person to Brustein or something like that. So that's fine to list that. Take that out of your professional development fund rather than admin if you want to.
Right.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And so this appendix N is part of your application, and then but you don't have to put the brief summary of what the student learning benefit was until you do your reporting. And like was brought up, we would have that on your December one, your March one, and then of course on your final one. And then Connie, one reason we don't want this to be a PDF document, we want to leave it as an Excel document when you turn it in, so Connie can pull information from the summary and put into the car report for the feds.
And when they submit the December 1 report, I'm sorry, when they submit the March 1 report, they can just add to what they've already submitted
Right.
for the December report. You don't have to create a new one.
Right. It's a living document. We know it's going to expand and just keep growing. Okay? So hopefully this will be also helpful because you can customize it. I mean, as long as we have this information for us, we're happy, and then you can add to it to whatever you need to help you track. And I know some of our coordinators do have different ways of tracking and adding. They've added over here funds and what's left, how much they've spent and what they have left in professional development. And because as we know, the travel is always so fun to track. So, all right. So that's basically, that would be your application. There's your packet and then the 3 Excel documents that go with it. Connie had mentioned the narrative, and that will be, we'll show you that one. It's in your final report packet, and so I'll open that up. And Appendix R is going to be part of your final report for your fiscal year 17 Perkins grant, but we are going to ask you to also fill this out for your fiscal year 16 Perkins grant final report. And this is the final narrative, and it's a Word document, so we expect it to expand quite a bit.
Yes.
And it stays a Word document so that, again, we can pull the information out of it and put right into the federal report. So I think this is pretty you can read through it, and then don't hesitate to email or call us with questions. But we've tied some to goals. Some don't tie, they tie to the Perkins grant, but they may not tie to one specific goal. Some of them tie to several goals, but they do tie to the federal report completely. So this is why, and so we know in your fiscal year 16 final report, it doesn't say outcomes on your activities page, but you can do that and then just make sure you report.
And this is where you would report the outcomes of
Right.
How did you address that actual measure.
Right.
And in some situations it speaks specifically to a goal which we've included at the end of the question or the statement, and then others is just information that we also have to report.
Right. So this is part of your final report packet. When you open that packet up, it's Appendix R. It's in there, and that's what we try to organize everything. You have your application documents all in one, and then you have your final report documents, and this one that you didn't need. I didn't want to mix them up. The ones that, like, there's your equipment inventory and things like that. You don't need them in your application yet. You don't need them yet, so they're in a different packet. I tried to put everything in different packets, so hopefully it's easier to use. And again, each packet has instructions at the beginning, table of contents that shows all the appendixes that go with that packet, and instructions hopefully on each one of them that is helpful. And again, you can do your checklist. These are the ones I need to turn in for my final document. The other packet we have is just a supplemental packet. and I'll open that up so you can see it. It has some required documents, but not all of them required. Some of them are just internal tracking documents that we thought would be helpful. And I'll just scroll down through. A lot of them are familiar. This is the packet. I didn't know where else to put everything. But a lot of these you'll need for your December 1 and March 1 progress report. And I'm just going to scroll down. And one of the things, though, we put in here is the advisory committee meeting minutes. And the main thing on these that we want to see is, what college is this? We get minutes, we don't have a college name on it.
Yeah.
We get minutes without a program name or a zip code, and I'm reading through the minutes trying to figure out what program it is. So even when you turn in your minutes this year, even though they might not follow this template, please put on your name, on your homework, and your program name on there so that we're not spending hours reading minutes. So please make sure you do that even on your fiscal year 16 ones. But these, like they said, the meeting minutes template is just a suggestion to help organize it. It is nice to look through and see everybody's minutes look similar.
Mm-hmm.
And the good old time reporting documents are in here. These are all Word documents, so you can pull these out and use them. Starlink is in there. Changed Starlink just a little bit. Added students because some people are using these, like the leadership ones and stuff, for their students to watch. And so we might as well be putting those. Here's your revision request documents in here. Your tag request documents in here. And these, the next few appendices are for your use if you want to use them. They have been handy for some of our coordinators to track. Here's a request for your faculty or admin, whoever wants to use professional development, for them to turn into you. We don't need this, but this is for them to turn into you and give you some estimates. But what is handy on this, there's two requests. There's one for professional development, one for equipment. They can give you the cost. It helps you estimate out your grant, so you might want to use these for your next coming up application. But then for professional development, here's your follow-up report. So what they could do is write a summary of what they've learned and how it'll benefit their students, and you can just pull it off of this and put it into your Excel document to turn into us. So that hopefully saves you some time of chasing down instructors trying to get what they've learned and everything and get it all documented. So please look through all the packets. The final report packet also has some good things that you can use for this grant if you want. For like the articulation, there's some spreadsheets you could use for articulation secondary and post-secondary that would be very handy. They're very easy to read. Another one for advisory meeting dates, and you can use those in this grant, the fiscal year 16 final report if you want, but they will be required for fiscal year 17. And again, don't forget the handbook up here. And that's a PDF, so if you need a document out of that, please pull it out of one of these others, pull it out of that one. And the advisory meeting handbook is always a good refresher to please go through that. Do you have any questions? Hopefully it doesn't look too bad. I mean, we just mainly wanted to organize it and make it easier to use.
I would want to put in a plug. Right where Laura's at, there is that Perkins ID tag disposal form. So
don't forget that.
We definitely are going to be asking for that so we can keep track of how the equipment and ID tag numbers. So
yeah, don't forget this website's out there, and we just keep it updated. And that handbook will, it was last updated in September, so you may not get a hard copy of it, but it's being updated on there whenever we have changes. Also with the documents, we try to keep them all posted up there. Questions? Okay. We'll send out a link to this. Yeah, we'll send out a link to the YouTube after Thursdays so that you can rewatch it since I'm sure you're so excited. But at least hopefully it's some good information. And again, get on there and look at the documents and then call us or email us if you have questions. Okay? Well, thank you all for being here. All right, thank you. We're going to shut it down, all right?
Have a great day.
Thank you.
You.
I was going to stop recording.